The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Cult for the Culture podcast are solely those of the individuals involved. The content presented is not a substitute for seeking or seeing a licensed mental health professional.
Know what's up next, know what's up next. Healthy pleasure with it, coping for the culture. Better tune in, better tune in. Big sis, get 'em, big sis, get 'em. Coping for the culture, 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 coping for the culture,
Hey y'all, and welcome to the Cope for the Culture podcast. I'm your host, Tiana Renee, the Culture's Advocate. On this show, we interview individuals from different walks of life who are dedicated to being the change within the culture as it relates to various topics and their effect on the world of mental health. Today's show is about the pressure to provide as a Black father and how that relates to mental health. And I have a special guest today, which I'm very excited about because he is a Black male therapist and he's out here in the field doing the work. And I would love to introduce D'Angelo Taylor to the Cope for the Culture podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No problem. How are you today?
I am doing well, blessed. It's a nice day outside. It feels like spring now,
Finally, right? The pollen calmed down a little bit. We're not dealing with that no more.
Right.
Good. So I always like to start out the show with asking everybody's favorite self-care practice. And I'm excited about yours because I've had a few men up here, but I always like to hear it because I recently had a conversation with a group of men that are like, when I think about self-care, I think of women. And I'm like, but how does that work? Like, it's just literally the act of taking care of yourself. How has that become a female thing like that? I'm a little offended. Like, why you don't want to take care of yourself, Black man?
Some people may need a definition of exactly what self-care is.
Mm-hmm.
And, it kind of gets misconstrued sometimes when people be like, well, what feels good to me? But if I was going to answer that question, I can name off a list of things, but the one thing I can say that really comes to mind when I think about self-care for me is making beats. For me, that's it's also a form of expressive therapy. We can talk about that, down the line. But if anyone likes to journal, write, do poetry, and do anything that's creative, I know for me, making beats and music production is more of something that's how I relieve my stress when I get home. That's how I clear my mind, is I just sit down and get in my creative mode and make music.
I'm with you. So my brother does a lot of producing and making beats, and he's always like, nobody understands. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm with you. I understand. Sometimes you just need something different.
Right,
but it's good too. I did a whole episode actually around creative outlets and how that's good for mental health and how you can use it positively. It doesn't always have to be, in a negative light. I know when we think about music and the genres of music that are out right now and what's being talked about in songs, it can be misconstrued. So it is good to have that positive outlet going.
That's 100% correct.
And I know you're doing a lot of work with the music production and also incorporating that somehow into mental health. And I'll let you touch on that a little bit more about exactly what you're doing in the field, what you're doing outside the field.
I got my hands in a lot of different areas right now. And the cool thing about what I do is that I try to, bring everything together so it all can make sense. So, of course, we talked about music production, but at the same time, I am a therapist. And one thing I tend to do is I take groups of kids, 12 to 17 to the music studio. And I teach them how to make music, and we go along the whole music making process. And throughout all of that, I teach them different coping skills, different team building skills, professionalism and things such as that. At the same time, it's something fun and new for them outside of, the ordinary environments that some of these kids are used to.
Mm-hmm.
Really being able to tie in, that passion I have for music at the same time, that love I have for really being able to give back and help people in a, mental capacity is something that I'm really trying to do out here, or doing out here, I can say.
Yeah, no, you're doing it. Don't say trying, you're definitely doing it. So is it are you doing that in conjunction with the therapy? Are you working with these children on a client basis, or this is a organization that you've started?
So this is an organization I have started, and it's called Soundtrack to Life. And if you haven't already, follow the page, the Soundtrack to Life Incorporated, or the Soundtrack to Life INC. Right now, I'm doing the 30-day mental health challenge. So not only do I work with kids, I'm also putting out a lot of professional development tips, Of course, spreading mental health awareness along with lifestyle management. So it's a lot. It's not just for kids, it's for anyone, to be honest with you.
Right.
That is something I am doing separate from providing the therapy to a very diverse population, I can say. Not just kids.
Right. And don't let him be modest, y'all. Every day on Instagram for the past, how many days has it been now? Today's the 17th.
17 days.
I don't know when you started. Did you start April 1st?
I started April 1st.
April 1st, okay.
Yeah.
So since April 1st, he has been posting something every single day that relates to self-care and mental health. He also, a lot of the times, will post different facts, like about different diagnoses, because I know a lot of the times within our culture and even with outside of the culture, we have a habit of, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, I'm anxious, or oh, I'm bipolar, when not really knowing what that means and what comes with that.
Right.
So I'm glad that you are doing that and giving education to people, because it is important. And the more that we know, the better able we are to, do what we need to do to take care of ourselves, especially as a culture, because we know it's not the primary thing for us.
Exactly. And I mean, again, just really trying to spread that awareness to everyone and help really define exactly what some of these things are. Because like you said, people, you can easily, I'm depressed, and not necessarily know what depressed means. You could just be having some type of off day, or one thing may have gone wrong, and it's not necessarily something that's, stopping you from carrying on with your everyday life. That's something that people got to really be aware of, and that's just not depression, disorders that people may just throw out there and say they have and not necessarily know what it means.
And not knowing. If people knew all that depression included, or to be an anxious person, because I struggle with anxiety. I'm always transparent about that. And
right.
The more that even as a therapist, it took me a long time to say, okay, you really struggle with anxiety. Like, stop playing. Like, you've been anxious your whole life. But a lot of the times when people don't have that understanding, they just label it. And it's like, some of these diagnoses can be very debilitating. Like, there's some days you won't be able to function. You going to work still. Like, you're doing good. There are a lot of people who can't get out of bed in the morning to do that. And it's not because they don't want to. It's just their body and their mind has made up. This is just not for me. I can't function right now. I can't do this.
That's right.
I was just going to ask about your experience as a Black male therapist, because I know we were talking a little bit before, and you guys are a very small pool, at least that's what the world sees, in the world of clinicians.
Right.
How's that experience been for you?
I can say, honestly, it's been a rewarding experience. I'm going to be honest. At the same time, I think people should be aware that there are a lot of Black male therapists. I want to say that right now. They might not be as open or really out there for you to be able to see, but they're out there. I'm going to say that. But, being a Black male therapist, that's with that already being in mind that, it's not too many of us. I guess when it comes to clientele, they're like, oh, he's a Black male. Let's see what he has.
Right.
He's a young Black male. Let's go ahead and talk to him. Let's see if he's the right guy. But to be honest with you, I think one of the benefits is being able to really connect a lot of these people on a cultural basis. Being able, knowing what's going on in the world, being engaged with people on social media and different other outlets. I think that really allows me to come with a very diverse approach, and not something that's just straightforward. I can connect and really work with people on many different levels. And I think that's, one cool thing about being a Black male therapist.
The people are ready. And a lot of the times, people are scared to say, I know within the practice that I'm in now, one of the questions we always ask at the end is, hey, do you have a preference for a therapist?
Right.
And granted, we don't have a lot of male therapists, but it's like, do you want a white therapist? Do you want a Black therapist? Do you giving people the choice? Because a lot of people don't know that it's absolutely your choice to pick and choose who you want, who you feel like you vibe more with, who you identify with. And so to have that, I think is good, especially for some of our brothers who aren't as willing and open to seeking out therapy and being able to talk to someone. So when you already have the reservations you have about the system, and then you go and say, oh, he looked like me. He might know, even if you can't give them your whole business, because we know that's unethical.
Right.
But it's still just I can see you and I feel like you can see me kind of deal.
Yeah. Just based off some clients' responses, I can tell it's somewhat refreshing for them to be able to really talk to somebody that they can identify with and someone that they feel understands them on their level. Again, being a Black male therapist, coming from the culture and knowing, things that we've been through and what we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, I feel like just that alone right there, it makes the rapport building so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has me really excited about the topic. I mentioned it earlier, but the topic today is around mental health and the pressure to provide as a Black father.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to do this episode because I know, well, one, just from experience and growing up, and I'm always transparent about this on the show, is I didn't have my dad growing up as a child. And so I know like what the effect is on me, but also as I've grown more and become self-aware, despite the feelings that I have, I'm starting to recognize like at the end of the day, he was still a person.
Yeah.
Outside of him having children, he was still a person. He still had his own life, his own journey, and wherever that led him is where it led him. And there are certain things that I can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know there are a lot of good fathers out there. And because there has been a situation where our families have been broken, they've taken the Black men out of the home, thinking incarceration and all these different things where we've separated the Black father and made them the villain, so to speak. And so I wanted the opportunity for us just to have a human conversation.
Right.
Because just like mothers struggle, and I did an episode on the strong Black mother and what that means, it's just as much as a situation for the Black father and what he has to go through and what that looks like.
Right. It's it's definitely it has its challenges, I gotta say.
Yeah. And you are a father.
I am.
You have a beautiful baby girl.
Thank you.
And so I know a lot of the times before we get into parenthood, and I'm not a parenthood yet, but I know I have my expectation.
Right.
I know what I want my partner to be for my children.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have a dad growing up. When I was, more in the dating world before I was with the partner that I am with now, it was like, if you have a child and you're not active in your child's life, I can't.
Yeah.
Because I know the effect that has, and I will never be, the woman that allows you to just live life with your child down the street.
Right.
And so with those expectations, I know it also puts a lot of expectations on you guys. And a lot of pressure. Yeah.
There's pressure.
So I'm curious to know, as much as you're willing to share, like what were your expectations prior to becoming a dad? And what did that look like that process look like for you?
Wow. So let's be transparent. Let's be 100% honest. Prior to becoming a dad, it was something that I didn't see for myself at the time. I didn't see myself being a dad at the time. I know that I was young at the time. I was really trying to figure myself out, figure out what I want to do career-wise, set myself up financially. I had so many individual things I wanted to do, for myself before I considered, what my life would look like, introducing a child and moving into that stage of life. To be honest with you, I didn't think about it. However, I can say there's been a lot of, great male figures, my dad, my stepdad. And I'm going to really, talk about how my stepdad made such a great impact on my life, and really showing me exactly what it is to, be a man and be a father,
right,
in a child's life. Just everything that he's done for me. So, of course, mimicking and seeing the things that he was doing, I'm like, I still got some work to do, so I can just be able to match and do some of the things that he was able to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
That pressure alone right there, and that having that expectation for myself, knowing that there were so many things that I need to do for myself, so I could be ready for that position.
Right.
Before I knew I had a child on the way, it wasn't something that really came to mind. Now, when I knew I had a child on the way, things kind of switched.
Things changed a little bit.
It happened really, really fast. Life hit me, and I really had to start thinking about, what I'm about to do here. How is this going to work? So, I'll be honest, the pressure did hit me as a young man who was really trying to figure life out, trying to figure things out, and really my direction. I had to take in consideration that I had to have a child on the way, and that, I got to tighten up and I got to, figure things out quick. So to be honest with you, I was definitely going through my own mental issues around the time. I think I can go ahead and admit that and be honest. And I think that's something that, got me to where I'm at today. Everything that was going on with me around that time has really helped me evolve and grow into the man I am and father I am today. But yeah, it was pretty rough at the beginning.
And I can imagine. And so when you said that you weren't thinking of children, was it just like at that time I wasn't considering being a dad, or just like I didn't see myself in the long term being a dad?
It was definitely at that time. Of course, I want a family, want kids. I want to really, have that type of life. But, at the time where I'm really trying to figure out my career, what I want to do, that whole pressure, family, there was a lot of things coming from all over the place at the time. But it happened for a
It
reason.
happened, yeah.
and
you making it happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so it makes me think, I did an episode around gender roles because I recognize that there are a lot of things that we associate with a man and with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when it comes to being a father, it's you have to provide, like financial, that's you.
Right.
Mom's going to take care of the physical, the emotional, the everyday. But when it comes to making sure that this house is taken care of, that's all on you. And so for me, for a long time, I think that was my view. But now that I've gotten older, I have a lot more self-awareness of myself and what I want and how broken that actually is.
Yeah.
It's like, in a way, I feel like we almost set ourselves up to fail because we put that pressure on ourselves from the beginning. And so we are being transparent. A lot of us, we're in college, we're living our lives, or even younger in high school, doing what we feel like we're supposed to be doing in that time. And then things happen and it's, okay, now I really have to prepare for this. But that topped with, okay, now I have to figure out how I'm provide for somebody when I can't even provide for myself. Like I'm struggling. I heard you say I had some other things going on. This wasn't what I was ready for. And we just expect for you guys to fall in line, I guess, and just be ready and not consider that just as much as it's an emotional challenge for me, It has to be an emotional challenge for y'all.
Yeah. It is. Definitely one of those things where you don't know if you're ready or not. So you can't really predict it. But, as far as like now, it's a beautiful thing. It's a blessing. It's something I wouldn't take back for nothing. I mean, of course, we wish we could sometimes go back and change how we may have behaved and acted in certain situations. But, overall, I think it really, the outcome has been something much greater and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And so you gave your perspective as far as like what your personal experience is. But I have, tons of friends who have children. I grew up in the situation that I grew up in. I know a lot of people who grew up in similar situations. And it just always makes me wonder, yes, like they're a person, but what do you feel like, I guess, from a professional standpoint as a clinician and just like being a Black man and being a Black father, what do you think goes into the mindset when the decision is made just to be like, all right, yeah, you're pregnant, but okay, I'm just going to keep, doing what I'm doing because this wasn't necessarily what I imagined or I envisioned.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hate to say, but it is somewhat selfish for, somebody to be able to do that and be able to easily walk away. Or in their mind, it's so easy for them to walk away, not considering again how that other person is taking it. It's a lot, again, going back, it's a lot that's going on for both individuals, but that's like the easy way out. Just hey, you got that. I didn't plan for that. Going back to, just being a man. And I hate to really go that far, but, yeah.
But what does that mean? Like we throw that around a lot, just be a man. But that goes back to the expectation part too of like, we already have it laid out that this is what a man is supposed to be. But who decided that? Like, how did we determine this?
That is a great question. That's a great question. And, these are rules that we continue to try to abide by every single day on what this expectation of a man is. We try to work towards that every day, but it's just going back to the original question, it's for a guy to step out. I don't agree with that. I think a man really needs to take in consideration, women's feelings and what they are really going through.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the whole perspective of like, how that fatherhood, how does she view fatherhood? What does that mean to her? I think all of that just, makes a big difference when it comes to, really being active, being involved in your child's life, mother's life, and really stepping up and being a great father.
Yeah, I agree too. I had one of the episodes I did too was in the gender role episode, we talked about some of the expectations that we place on ourselves based off what we've learned from Western culture.
Yeah.
In the world we're in now. And so what's your perspective on how much we've actually taken and incorporated that into the Black community as far as what a family looks like, what it means to be a dad, what it means to provide? How much of that do you think plays into that?
A lot of it plays into that. It's tough because you look at the disadvantages African Americans have, especially the Black male, in this situation. Nowadays we have women making more money than men. Black women are really doing great right now. They're graduating at a phenomenal rate and out here really getting jobs out of college. Whereas, Black males, some of us tend to, lag behind. We're not as moving as fast as a lot of women. So, that pressure alone right there plays a huge role. And of course, taking that from the Western society, Western culture.
Right.
So as we look at that, and then we compare that to, our culture and everything, that we have going on, now we're introducing a child, for example. And it's like, woman's ready. Yeah, okay, we're good. I'm in my career. We're fine. Man's like, I'm still trying to find a job. I don't know what I got going on. I don't know what's next for me. I'm trying to survive. So I mean, it's definitely it adds a lot of extra pressure. And again, that's just one part of it. I can go on and on about other many.
Go ahead. I want to hear the other part. But before you go deep into that, I'm glad that you said like the man versus woman. And sometimes we are right now. The ladies are booming. We're doing more. We're going into entrepreneurship. We are actually following through with jobs that align with our careers, and we're doing that. And I know
women have to go on.
For some men. And I don't want this episode to be bashing at all, because when I say I'm for the black man, I love the black man. That will be, forever and ever, amen.
We're not congressional black man.
But I know that can be a huge struggle sometimes to face the fact when you've already placed the expectation on yourself to be a father, but now your woman or your partner or whoever the mother of your child is excelling more than you are. And so I know a lot of times it's a hit. And I also hear very frequently for men, and why they don't have children or get married is because they're not at a point in their life where they feel like it's appropriate. Like, I'm still trying to do this. I'm still trying to get my life together. I'm trying to be financially stable. When right now, in the reality of the world, that could be years. Like, we thought we were going to graduate college and that was going to be it. But now we owe Sally Mae half our lives. I know I do, because I went to undergrad and grad.
So man, it's like, tell me about it.
So all of that I know definitely ties in, but I want to hear what the extra was that you said you can go on and on about.
Well, I mean, it's really, I mean, that's one of the many pressures, but going back to just a man really trying to figure himself out and figure out what he really wants to do. I think it just kind of goes back to some men have been conditioned to, be selfish in a sense. So early in life, not saying this is something like early in life, be selfish, try to get all you can, do what you need to do for yourself, get your money, get your job, you go ahead and outfind your career, then, you'll be ready then. And these are things that, some of us actually been taught, young, at young ages. Again, a lot of men and women, a lot of us grow up without fathers. So we don't necessarily know exactly what that role is supposed to look like, other than mimicking exactly what we hear society says this is what the man is supposed to be doing. We don't have a direct example or no image that we can, identify with and say, okay, I can see this is it. Now, on the flip side,
okay. Hit us with both.
Yeah, we can go both. There are absent fathers, and then there are toxic fathers who in some lives. So, they don't necessarily provide the best example for what it is to have a father, or what fatherhood is supposed to look like,
Right, so there but not there. Like, I'm providing, I'm making sure you have a roof over your head, but when I come home, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't see me, I don't really talk. What I know is experience for a lot of people.
It could be that. It could be just, whatever other behaviors and acts that, that person may do. It's not good overall. So, I mean, we can go. I don't want to go on and on because I know what some other things you can talk about. But,
no, I mean, but I think these are all important, and I think these are the conversations we don't have enough. Like, we don't recognize that there are different levels to being just a parent in general. Yes, we're talking about, the black male father and what that looks like, but at the same time, it's something on both sides, because sometimes the situation can be, which we haven't touched on, but we know is very prevalent in our community, is what we like to call the baby mama, baby daddy situation, where it's, okay, we had a kid. This is what we have. The relationship didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. So now I'm going to take that out on you, and you can't see your kid. And then you have that, which I know I've seen a lot, and it breaks my heart, because it's like, there are dads who want to be active. And I feel like a lot of the times in that situation, it's the dads that actually want to do something that are being punished because what we had didn't work out, when that shouldn't even be a factor.
Right. And I've seen it myself. It's super unfortunate, and for the parent, for the dad, but really for the kid, especially, you know, when there's somebody that really want to be active and provide and do so much for this child and really be a great example, but, you know, be denied that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super unfortunate. And I just want to go ahead and shout out, you know, the mother of my child, man, because I'm glad we're able to.
You go ahead. You do that. Give her props.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, we work together as a team and we make it work out. So, I mean, that, you know, that's a blessing to have. But, you know, at the same time, there's a lot of people that are in difficult relationships and it just don't work out for them.
Yeah, which is good because I'm glad to hear that y'all were able to make it, you know, work and be functional for the sake of the child, because at the end of the day, there will always be a child and the child will always suffer if things do not go the way that they are supposed to go so that they can function as a human being in this life.
Right.
But I feel like the additional layer of sometimes where there is a lot of pressure put on them to be in the relationship with that person, they're not allowed to see their child, that adds a whole nother layer. Yeah. Like for the mental health, because it's like, I just want to see my kid. Like, what do I have to do? Right. So now you're bending over backwards. You're back and forth in the court. And for a lot of people, that can be very discouraging. Yeah. Because like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. It's nothing for a female, and I hate to say this, but it's nothing for a female to go to the court and say, this is what's happening. This is not working out. And it can always, most times, land in her favor, even if he's doing everything he's supposed to do. Now you got a $500 child support payment. And it's like, dang, like, I'm already providing. I'm making sure that they have whatever they need. But still, you can go and say all these things, and this is where we land.
It's tough, man. It's super tough out there. I mean, the courts are definitely for the women. I hate to say it, man, but, you know, shout out to people who are out there really doing what they're supposed to do, you know, but at the same time, and shout out to all those fathers out there who are really trying to be in their child's life and are in their child's life. But for those ones who are really trying, I wish you guys the best. I really hope that, you know, something can work out between you and the mom of that child, because it's really important for, you know, parents to be in their kids' life, you know.
And for a child to have both parents, not just the mama. It's important for the kids to have their daddy too.
It is. It's very important. So,
don't I know it? So let's get into the mental health piece though, because we've like dibble dabble touched on it, but okay, let's step back a little bit. So I'm sure you have Black male clients, and I know you can't share like verbatim stuff, but what do you feel like the effect is on the mind of a Black father when there is so much pressure, or they're not allowed to see their children, or it's just like a constant fight period to, I'm trying to be the best man I can be, versus I still have life going on and I'm trying to manage that, or I want to be a father to my kids, but I don't really feel like I have it all the way together, so I just won't be a father to my kids. I know that's like 3 different scenarios, but
a lot comes out of that. I mean, if we're touching on mental health, I think a lot of men are facing a lot of depression. A lot of depressed men out here, and we don't, I don't say we, a lot of us guys, a lot of males don't know how to necessarily, you know, speak on it or really talk about what that depression looks like or how that feels for them. We know there's all kinds of, you know, ways that males or people in general tend to cope when it comes to depression, or when they feel uneasy or unsure about how exactly they do feel. They seek other means of sometimes negative ways to cope, whether that's drugs, whether that's sex, whether that's, you know, being promiscuous, whatever it is that gets them that temporary feel good to escape whatever the real issues are going on. Outside of depression, man, I know that's something that's real crippling for a lot of males. You know, and that can get away from them really trying to advance in their career, really trying to like do things they really want to do in life that makes them happy. So it plays a huge factor overall, and as this person's trying to be the best they can, you know, live up to certain expectations and still try to do what they can and do the best, you know, for themselves in their life, trying to move forward.
And the depression, I've seen a lot. I've known a lot of people close to me who have had struggles with that, and just people that I know, like from school or just different phases in my life. But I've heard it go as far as like, if I can't get this right, if I can't figure it out, if I can't be the father I need to be, if I can't see my kids, then suicide thoughts come up. And we don't like to talk about that as much. We don't, when we know, at least for us, because we're in the field and this is what we do, but the stats are pretty high for a Black male as far as, you know, suicide and what that looks like, because a lot of the times our brothers aren't as vulnerable and open. And that's not to say everybody, but it can be a hard thing to say, hey, I'm really struggling. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to cry because I can't see my kid, or I'm doing the best I can, but I'm being laid off from this job, or this person doesn't trust me enough to do this, or she's getting on my nerves because of X, Y, and Z reason.
Mm-hmm.
But versus talking about it a lot of the times, it's that, okay, toughen up, like, be a man, we got this, we can get through.
Right, yeah. And obviously, again, something that a lot of us have been taught that, which is not necessarily that's a tradition we're gonna have to break, guys. And everybody needs to know, like,
say it again.
We're gonna have to break that tradition of, really holding things in and bottling it up to the point it pushes us to the breaking point, and we start contemplating something so terrible as suicide in our life, to the point we can't do nothing at all at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly encourage, a lot of, males to, seek therapy. Again, there are Black therapists out there if you want to find somebody to connect with. Seek therapy if you really get that far, feel that deep where you want to harm yourself or harm someone else. But again, it can be that discouraging. I mean, when you have a child, you have that connection there. You want to...
Right.
It's hard to explain. I don't even know how to explain it the best I can, but it's something that is like, it's up there as far as your priorities. I know I got to be the best dad I can be. And there's nothing I can do right now to do that or show that. And now I'm looking like I'm shit because, excuse my language.
No,
I'm looking like I'm
be
shit.
transparent.
I'm looking like I'm shit, and I'm trying because this mom is like really, putting this barrier up for me being the best father I can be.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I think it's one of those things that, guys gotta talk it out, talk about, don't ball this stuff up.
Yeah.
Again, I really hope that the mother of the child, if this is a situation that somebody's going through, I really hope that they can find a way to really communicate to the mother of this child, and they can work something out where that's not an issue. But really communicating that and talking that out.
Right. And that's why I said,
point.
Right. And that's why I really wanted to do this episode, because I just feel like our men do not get the opportunity to have their side. Like, we always on the side of the mom, like, right, wrong, indifferent. She's the mom. She's the single mom. She's this. But it's like, yeah, but like, single dads is a thing too. It's dads out here right now holding it down for him and his children. And it's just him and his children. And I just feel like the Black man has been painted in such a light that it really just dysregulates me. And you can see me right now, like, trying to get my thoughts together. But it makes me so upset, because at the end of the day, I think everybody, especially our men, are doing the best that they can in a system that is set up to make them fail.
Right.
And I know, like I said, I know a lot of fathers that are just trying to do the best that they can. And I don't think anything in this world probably breaks my heart more, because I work with kids. I know how important it is for a child to have their mother just as much as it is to have their father, and for them to be in a situation where they're not heard. And I feel like I've heard that a lot from the men that I'm close to, or the fathers that I've worked with in therapy. It's like, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Nobody's listening. I'm always the bad guy. It's always this. And I would love to change that narrative and shed more light on, y'all struggle too. It's not just us.
Right.
So how do you think we change that? Like, what if we could have it in an ideal way? Like, what's the magic question?
That's a tough one, man. This is something we've been dealing with for such a long time. And we're trying to undo history right now. Already everything's against us. And then you got to think about what the Black man is in today's society, being targeted by police, from... And then after all that stuff that's going on externally, then we come back home, and then we have these issues within the family, and then can't even, be the parents or the father that we want to be. Yeah, it's super unfortunate. But, to really start moving into a much better direction, again, guys, we got to talk about it. I think it's conversations that we need to probably, have more openly, like really, be able to discuss this a little bit more, shine some more light on, what the men are going through, or what Black men are really going through. We know what the picture the media is painting of us, but, we need to be vocal about it ourselves and have these open conversations about really what's going on. Also, some of us got to really reflect too on how we communicate, and are we communicating the best way? And I see it all the time. Guys are frustrated, and they do want to really see their child. They want to communicate with the mother of the child, but fellas are not always communicating to the mother of the child the best way.
No, because they already frustrated.
They're frustrated, so a lot of that anger and stuff is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she's not receiving that. The mom is not receiving that the right way at all. So she's like, I'm not about to let you. You think I'm gonna let you be around my child and you acting like
And
that?
you acting like this, right?
And, it's just frustrating. For a lot of guys, it's just frustration. It's not really how they are. It's just that in the moment, there's so much emotion that's coming out at the time that it's being misconstrued as something else. Sometimes, we do got to scale back. And if women are listening to this as well, I think they got to also, hear this. Sometimes all of us got to just sit back, reflect about, how we really respond and how we're really reacting and how we communicate, and see if there's a better way we communicate to a point where it's not really putting out that anger or that frustration to where it's harmful or, abusive.
Right. And the feelings are valid. Because I
Right.
can only imagine if somebody told me I couldn't see granted, I don't have it, but heck, even down to like, oh, you can't see your mom. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean I can't see my mom? But I know it's such a struggle, and we didn't touch much about how it affects the children. And I know how it was for me for a long time. It's like, man, like you really couldn't even like just a little bit. And of course, I didn't know everything. I didn't know all the details. And as I grew up, I learned more about what was happening. But it's like at the same time, in my mind, even to this day, it was never justifiable enough for, you just not do that. And I know that's the case for a lot of kids where you grow up in a single parent home, and it's either one, if you're a female, I'm going to be the best mom I can be, and I'm going to pick the best partner. But if you're a male, it can either be, I'm going to follow the example I was given because that's just what I saw. It's not anything intentional, but this is what I've known it to be. Or the one that goes the exact opposite way of, I'm going to be the best dad in the world. I'm going to do everything I need to do from A to Z, and whatever that looks like. And I know it's such a space where there's just so much gray area. But I just want us to be healthy as a people, and for our kids to have their parents, and for our dads to have their kids, because most times it's the moms that have their children, and the dad in some form or fashion does suffer. And I'm probably going to get some flack for that, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's the reality of what happens right now.
Yeah, it's the truth. And I mean, that's not to downplay, or that's not to, say that, women are struggling. We know that, definitely, there's a lot of single moms out there. They are struggling, but they're making it happen. They're doing their thing out here. So I still want to shout them out as well. But, at the same time, there's a lot of males and men who want to really be in their child's life who are being denied that access. That's a huge factor on a lot of these men's mental health that, we don't necessarily hear them. They may not say this, but it comes out in different ways, in some of the behaviors and actions, and it kind of mimics what's really going on the inside. But I think, overall, it's a conversation that needs to continue to be had. I think, more dads need to continue to come together and speak up. Even, I think, moms as well.
Right, like me and you having this conversation right now, but it needs to be like a group, like everybody. And I keep saying, I want to have an event just for the males, where they just open space, free space. I'm just here to facilitate you.
Yeah.
Say what's on your heart, say what's on your mind, get it out. But I keep saying it so that I hold myself accountable to it because it's needed. And it's also needed for us to be able to have conversations as a culture and as a community because that's how we're going to rebuild our families. And I don't want us to go to another generation of broken families when the answer probably be something.
Right. There was a quote, or there was a meme I saw recently. I don't want to get it wrong, but it was something like, we can't continue to mistake these toxic behaviors or toxic traditions as culture.
Yep.
Have you heard that?
I have seen it. I have. But it's the truth.
And I mean, it just comes up because it's something that is so relevant today, and everything that that's going on within, the Black household or within Black families, that there's a lot of things that we're continuing to pass down that's not necessarily healthy, from, how sometimes uncles and adults are raising some of the boys and how they're telling them to grow up to be, to even how like some women are even raising some young ladies. This is what it is when, a lot of times it's not always true, but
it's not. And I want us to that point. I really do, because we are passing down a lot of toxic things as culture. Everything is not the culture. Some things are not good for the culture, and that is apparent.
This is true.
With where we are, I really want us to have whole families. And like I don't think I want nothing more than that. when I talk about being a parent now, I'm like, my family's gonna be whole, happy and healthy. Whole, happy and healthy. Like, that's what I say all the time because that's just what I want. But I also want for our culture and for us to be in a place where that's actually a reality and it's not just some fairy tale thing that we strive for.
Right. I agree.
So you've given a lot of advice, a lot of encouragement. But if you can give like one final thing for our brothers out there, keep going, what would that be?
One final thing, fellas, I want to let you guys know, it's not the end of the world. The situations that you experience right now, you know, it's nothing that you can't overcome. And thinking about ending it or thinking about giving up and quitting, you know, honestly, is the easy way out. And don't use that route. So I highly encourage those who really are at a lost place and really looking for someone, are looking for some answers. You know, find a therapist, find someone that you can really talk to about some of these things that's going on, and can really help you dig a little bit deeper into really discovering exactly what it is that you can do, or what it is that you can, like, you know, put you in a much better mindset and have you thinking and reframing exactly what's going on. So, I mean, outside of seeking the therapy, you know, just really reminding, you know, everyone that, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's a tough situation, but, you know.
Yeah. There's something on the other side.
Yes.
I think you've been a very good advocate today for our men, holding it down. And I know some of these questions like, ooh, okay. All right,
it's all good.
Let's just get into it.
These are the conversations that are needed, you know, not just by myself, but other black males, other black male therapists, other black therapists, other women, you know, it's everybody. I think these are conversations we need to include everybody in.
Right.
Because, you know, outside of just being a father and fatherhood and parents, you know, mental health it's so many different things that's going on that if you want to talk about mental health, it goes back to a lot of people's mental health that's happening right now in the world.
Yes, which brings me to my next point where I like to end the show always. You're a clinician, so I know your mind probably works around this all the time. But if you could change one thing about the state of mental health in our culture and our community, what would that be?
If I can change one thing about it, is that, you know, I wish this was something that we was paying attention to hundreds of years ago. If this is something that was already being talked about hundreds of years ago, our great grandparents was already involved in therapy and they were already trying to do a lot of things that, I mean, going back already from slavery beyond, like going back to really undo a lot of trauma that we've been experienced throughout history. I think we were able to really have that outlet to, you know, talk and release a lot of things that's been going on internally. As a whole, our culture being a much better place.
Definitely could, because we have a lot of trauma as a culture.
Yeah.
Definitely have. But I truly, truly appreciate you. And I always like to give an opportunity to plug like whatever you have going on. I know you talked a little bit about your different organizations, so I want to give you the opportunity to share
I
things
do.
that you may have.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, like I did mention Soundtrack to Life, you know, make sure y'all follow that on Instagram, as I'll will continue to spread mental health awareness, personal development tips, as well as lifestyle management tips. So follow that on Instagram at the Soundtrack to Life INC. Also, I have a music brand and a music label, Super Dope Music and Super Dope Nation. I sell apparel if you're looking for some cool, I call it studio wear, some cool clothes you can wear around the studio, around the home, go out and be super dope, you know, like we all are. You can check that out as well. Follow the page, Super Dope Nation. Check out the site, superdopeshop.com. Man, what else? Other than that, do you have any questions? If you need someone to talk to about, you know, your own personal brand, or if there's anything, you know, that has to do with mental health, general questions that, you know, you have, of course, you can ask me. I'm open to, you know, really talking to people and providing that online help when I can. Yeah. But ask me now, because real soon I'm going to be charging.
Ooh.
I'm going to be charging. You're going to be paying for some of these tips I'm dropping really soon. I'm being generous right now, you know.
You are. You're doing it for the culture. And that's okay. But also, we got to live, too.
We do got to live, man. Listen, I like I said, I do have a daughter, and she got to be fed. I got to make sure I put clothes on her back, too. So
hello, because we just talked about this whole episode, all right? He's just trying to do what he needs to do. But again, I really appreciate you for coming on and having this conversation with me. I realize a lot of the episodes I have are very raw. And I try not to hold anything back, because I know these are the conversations that we have. And I'm glad that I was able to have this conversation specifically, because I know y'all don't get a lot of credit a lot of the times. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you so much. And again, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. And as always, y'all, thank you for tuning in to the Cope for the Culture podcast. Catch y'all later.
For more information about the show, events, or if you have any questions, you can find us on Instagram at Healthy Pleasures Inc. and visit us at www.healthypleasuresinc.org.